risky business. So to be valid, the deal cannot be risky. Except what risks the religion permitted. So there are some risks that you can take. Like the risks of hiring and offering a reward. What's the risk of hiring? Risk of hiring, for example, that you pay the guy and he burns you. Or you rent your house to him, he burns your house down. That's a risk. You cannot take a security deposit to cover the risk. Rather, you can take the risk if you want to take it, and then do a fair deal. Your house for his rent, and that's it. No security deposit. But, as you know, he has to pay for any damages caused by neglect. And he doesn't have to pay for any damages not caused by neglect. But you can't take a payment beforehand in case he damages something, though. And the risk of offering a reward, that's risky because you don't even know who's doing the job or how he's doing it. Whoever does such and such for me gets $100. That's the job. How he's going to do it and who's going to do it, you don't know. So that's risky in itself. And tending certain types of trees in exchange for a percentage of the yield, that's risky. Not because you're tending to trees. That's not the risky part. That's fine work. That's regular, normal work. Being a gardener, for example, that's fine work. The risky part is that your salary is a percentage of the yield. So percentage means you don't know exactly how much you're going to get. Percentage means whatever comes up, you're going to get a cut of that, however much it might be. So that means now your salary is unknown. So fundamentally, you can't agree to work for a percentage anyway. But there is a case when you can, like here, tending certain types of trees in exchange for a percentage of the yield. That is risky, but the religion permitted this one. What are those certain types of trees? Palm trees and grapevines. That's it. The exact same work you would do for palm trees and grapevines for a percentage of the yield, but with other trees, apple trees, orange trees, or I don't know what trees, is not valid. Because you can't be paid for a percentage of the yield. Except in that case, the religion permitted it. For there is a need for those types of things. And what is a risk? The risk is for one or both sides to be unable to estimate the outcome, or for the most likely outcome to be detrimental, like Al-Mawardi said. Such as selling or renting a specific unseen item, or agreeing to tend to specific unseen trees. So, selling or renting a specific unseen item. Or, if we want to summarize it even more, selling a specific unseen item. So if you learned dealings before, then that's clear. You know what it means for something to be an unseen item in a sale. So selling a specific unseen item, you also know what it means for an item to be a specific item in a sale. A particular item in a sale. Selling or renting a specific unseen item. So if we want to strip it down to very minimum, we'll say selling a specific unseen item. That's too risky. Now, if we want to add some detail, if we want to broaden our scope a little bit, we can say selling or renting a specific unseen item. Same judgment. As long as you know what specific means and as long as you know what unseen means, then it's clear. And we can broaden our scope even wider, or agreeing to tend to specific unseen trees. Same judgment. Like what? Like, I now sell to you or rent to you my horse in the stable that is like this and that. While he never saw it, the customer that is. While the customer never saw that horse. So when he said my horse, then it became specific. Not a horse. So that specific horse, the customer never saw that horse. So it's not valid to say, I now sell or rent to you my horse in the stable like this and that. That's too risky if you never saw it. No. But there's a detail here. A nice detail. Inshallah, I'll squeeze it in here. Which is, sometimes you buy something that comes in its cover. You can't open it. If you open it, you'll ruin it. So what you want is not the cover. What you want is inside. And if you open it, you'll ruin it. This case was missing for us, for me, for a long time, until very recently. So what's that going to be like? It's going to be like a banana. You don't want the peel. But you can't just stand there and open it up in the store so you can look at it. And then that's going to be like what too? That's going to be like all sorts of packaged things, like a can of tuna. So this is where I had a mistake. But I would say, and yani, I have a source for that mistake, meaning I took it from someone else. Not my assumption, this mistake, but it is a mistake. So now it's fixed here. Which is what I'm telling you now. When the thing has a cover that you can't take it out of or else you're going to ruin it, then now you can buy it. So you can buy the banana without opening the peel first and looking at the banana. Or whatever's like that. So maybe you have a can of tuna fish. You can't just open it right there. That's a specific unseen thing there inside of its containment. So, selling or renting a specific unseen item, or agreeing to tend to specific unseen trees. Like, I now sell or rent to you my horse in the stable, or, of course, my horse, that's just an example. Anything that specifies it has the same judgment. The horse, my horse, that horse. Or maybe he says, horse number 572. That means this particular horse. Anything that means this particular horse, then you need to see it. If you haven't seen it already. Selling seen items is a type of sale in itself, because there's a way to sell without seeing. So we're talking about risky business, and our first order of business here is to address seeing what you're paying for, so to avoid risk. And we're also addressing paying for something specific as opposed to something described. So seeing what you're paying for minimizes the risk, and specifying what you're paying for minimizes the risk. The specific item must have been seen when the contract was made or before that, but not by a time long enough for it to change. So, what if you had a pot of rice and I wanted to buy it? Cooked rice. That's a valid subject of a sale. But what if I come back the next day? Definitely, I need to see it, because rice can go bad in one day. Cooked rice. But what if it were a car? It's probably going to be the same if it didn't get damaged or something. So maybe I saw the car last week and I said, let me think about it. And then I'll call you and say, okay, I'll buy that car that I already saw. That's valid. So selling seen items is a type of sale in itself, because there is a way to sell without seeing. How are you going to buy something that you never saw? Then you're going to buy a described thing. When it comes to a specific thing, not a described thing, then you need to see it at the time of the contract or before that, as long as it wasn't long enough to change since you saw it. And it's the same when renting. For a book, one should see each page. For a house, one should see all rooms and the roof. That part people might skip. When we say you have to see the roof, means you or whoever you authorize. If you can't go up there and look at the roof, get someone who can go up there and look at it for you. For a garden, one has to see all the trees, and if it is irrigated, he has to see the irrigation path, yani like the stream, and so on. And selling a garden of trees with their ripe or unripe fruit is valid. Selling a garden of trees with their ripe or unripe fruit is valid. If seeing some of the merchandise tells you about the rest of it, like wheat, then that's enough. Yani, like there's a barrel. So you opened up the barrel, you looked at what's right there on top. That tells you about the rest of what's in the barrel. So you don't have to see every single grain in the barrel. That's enough when what was shown is sold with the rest. Then what was sold has to be sold with the rest. One must see what is being sold before buying a share also. Before buying a share, one must see what's being sold. So that's going to help answer some questions pertaining to stocks. Because what is the person buying? It's not buying anything. It's something abstract, a phantom thing he's buying. He's buying an idea. That's the scam. How that's a scam? Because basically they're selling you an idea. But since you gave them money, according to the laws of the countries who legalize these things, since you gave them some money, they have to provide something for you, like certain quality, so that you can make money, get some return, for example. But you don't have really anything really until you cash out. But you did give something really. They took something from you really, which is your upfront payment. You paid for something up front without getting anything up front. The only thing you got up front was an idea or a feeling, a hope that you're going to make some money out of that. So it's a gamble, really. It's haram. It's not valid. Not what they do. If you want to buy a share, then go see what's being sold. Go see the merchandise, the product being sold, and then buy a share of it. Yeah, not to mention that the way they do it, they don't have any limit to shares. Like, just give them money. You give them $1 million and you got $1 million of shares, you're good. You give them $1,000, you got $1,000 a share. Minimum is $80 though, for example. Our shares go for $80 a minimum. One share for $80. Something like that. I'm sure I'm not saying it the best way. This is not valid. So then what's left? What's left now is to talk about buying something you didn't see. So the second type of sale is to sell a non-specific, very clearly described item in such a way that delivery is on the seller. Non-specific means sell me one of those. I want to buy a such and such. So it's not specific. Very clearly described. What does that mean? That means everything that influences the price. Does the color influence the price? No? Then you don't have to worry about the color. That's just an example. So everything that influences the price, you want to specify it. That's for you as a buyer and a seller. So if you're just selling this type of way, then you want to say to the person, let's say you're selling computers, then you need to say everything that matters. So the size of the screen, the quality of the screen, the memory, and everything that matters. Yani the memory in terms of the speed of the device, and the memory in terms of the amount that it can preserve. Everything that matters, you need to mention it in the description. So if it's a car, then whatever matters, etc. Selling a non-specific, very clearly described item in such a way that delivery is on the seller. Why is delivery on the seller? When we say delivery is on the seller, means obligatory on the seller. Why the delivery is obligatory on the seller? Because the buyer paid up front. Why is the buyer paying up front? Because if he doesn't pay up front, and he never saw anything in particular that he's buying, then it would be a debt for a debt. It would be one thing if there was something in particular that he saw, it's just not there. So he pays up front for that particular thing. That's valid. Or not pay up front, I mean to say. It's one thing if there was a particular thing that he saw, and then he does a contract verbally saying, I buy that thing that I saw, that particular thing, but without paying up front. That's valid. But when there's not anything in particular that he's buying, he never saw anything in particular, and his contract is not falling upon anything in particular. And also, he's not even paying up front. Then what's that? That's a debt for a debt, and that's not valid. So since he's paying up front, that means then the other one has to deliver. He must deliver. And when we say he has to deliver, that's a general statement. They might have other provisions. Might be that the customer is going to come back and get it. Maybe he's going to pick it up. So that's basically the seller delivering, making it available for the customer to come and pick it up. Delivery is on the seller in this case, although he might not have any idea of how he's going to get it in the first place. He can still do this type of contract without knowing where he's going to get the product. And when he gets paid up front, like we're going to say, he doesn't have to use that money to get the product either. He owns that money to do with it what he wants. But now he has a debt. So he better get that product and deliver. Get it according to its descriptions and deliver on time. That's his obligation. This could be done without the word salam or salaf, according to some scholars. Meaning, all what I just said to you now. What I described to you now doesn't require saying salam or salaf. Those words, which means advance payment sale. Without saying the word salam or salaf or advance payment sale, you can do a sale like I just described to you. That's basically how you're going to buy online. Don't buy a specific thing that you never saw when you're buying online. Buy a described thing. And payment is due before dispersal, like we said. So not to sell a debt for a debt. But if you do say salam or salaf, then what difference does it make? Very good question. If you say salam or salaf, then now you're doing a very specific type of sale that doesn't include all the things that we've been talking about, like a computer or a car or something. Now it's more specific. If you do salam or salaf sale using those words in the contract, like when you do a marriage, don't you say, I give my daughter in marriage, for example. So you have to say marriage in the contract. If you do a sale using salam or salaf in the contract, so you're doing a salam sale, or which is also called salaf sale, which is the advanced payment sale, then this only works with specific types of products. Payment will still be due before dispersal. So not to sell a debt for a debt. In this case, one includes specifying the type of thing, like we're going to see, and the amount and all relevant features by which prices vary. And the subject of this advance payment sale must be what? An unmixed kind of described thing. Unmixed. That means it does not have multiple ingredients or components. So right there means can't be cheese, because cheese has various ingredients. Can't be a car or a computer, because it has various components. Or a shoe, or a house. Like what then? Like wheat. Nor can it be leather, because the thickness of leather cannot usually be guaranteed. Unless its elements can be precisely determined, like khaz, which is made of silk and wool. So if it's something that has ingredients, very specifically determinable components, then you can, like khaz that's made of silk and wool. Because this khaz, you can determine the amount of silk exactly and the amount of wool exactly. So then you can do this type of contract for it. And when we said up above a couple lines, this could be done without the word salam according to some. This means that according to some, that can't be done without the word salam. According to some, You just can't do that. What we're saying is there's a type of sale called selim or selef sale, which now you're getting an idea of it. You can see right here that this type of sale requires that you're basically selling some type of thing that's not mixed with other things. Like the material of what you're selling is one thing. So it's rice or it's gold, for example, or something else. So some scholars said if you're not selling this type of product, you can't do like the way people order online. You can't do it. Because then you'll be buying a described item that you haven't seen, that doesn't fulfill the conditions of selim. They say that's not valid. This thing can be particular to a large area, like Canadian wheat, but not a small one, like the wheat from so-and-so's garden. Then it became too risky. All descriptions that influence the price must be mentioned. It is insufficient to do this sale for a mere cow. You say to the selim dealer, I want to order a cow. That's not valid. Or a camel, or a slave. Just that only, that's the only word you say, it's not valid. It's not valid without its kind and its type, like Turkish or Arabian or Indian. Like when we say Turkish, Arabian, or Indian, might be a slave, or might be a horse, or might be something else. Age must be approximated and not too specific, so that it doesn't become too risky. And height and gender, as well as color, are determined, but not for the animal. If it were a slave, yes. For the animal, no. Because color matters when it comes to the slave. It comes to the animal, so if the cow is black spots or brown spots, it doesn't matter. The volume, weight, or sometimes count should be known. And one can use any way for good measure. But volume and weight cannot be combined, because that makes the item rare. Unless that's easy to do. Live fish and locusts are by count, and dead are by weight. That question actually came. And someone called me, and he wanted to buy some fish. And the issue is if they were alive or if they were dead. How does he do? So if they're alive, by count. If they're dead, then by weight. The item must usually be available at the determined time and in the vicinity of the delivery, like by usually growing there or by import. So here I am where I am. I'm not going to do a selim for zebra, according to what I learned here. Now I have learned this, so I'm not going to do selim for zebra, although zebra is edible, it's permissible to buy. It's animal, but it's not available here. Neither grows here, nor is it imported here. So according to what I have learned here, I wouldn't do that. Sometimes things have season. There's not even a season for it here, but maybe somewhere else there is. At the time of the contract, the item might be present or not. But once the seller delivers with all descriptions fulfilled, the buyer has to accept. The item might be present at the time of the contract. We're talking about an upfront payment for a delivery. How could the item be there? It might be. So you have a selim dealer, Muslim selim dealer. His motto is, I sell 'em by selim. It's a nice store. So you go in there, he has all sorts of things. So then you order whatever you order, and then you pay him up front, and he has to deliver, and he says, I have it right here. And then he gives it to you. That's valid. Yani, we're saying you did a selim contract, and the stuff was there, still valid. But according to some scholars, you have to mention the delivery date. Some said you don't have to. Yani, they said you can leave it open. So you just leave it open, like a dowry. Can't you marry a woman for dowry without saying when it's due? You just leave it open. Some said like that you can do. Some said you have to say when. But once the seller delivers with all descriptions fulfilled, the buyer has to accept. He has to accept. And one last pointer here. It is recommended to see or look at a woman's face and hands before marriage, because we have rules of marriage interwoven into this book. So like buying and renting, before marrying, see the woman you are marrying. As for her hair, if he needs to see it, yani, if he so badly wants to know about it, he can send a woman to see it for him. He doesn't have to see it himself. And then she can tell him about it. Let's stop there.